asked Domonique Foxworth to put together the Foxy Five. Quite a dance move.
I'm a better dancer than that.
You got to work in there.
A Tootsie Roll type of guy.
Top 5 teams in the NFL right this minute. Go.
All right, so I hate my list already, but we're going to start at number 5, Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That loss yesterday is, it's tough because they lost to a good team, and they're obviously very good. And they've had a really good run. They're one of the most impressive teams. I'm not going to say that they're not going to win the Super Bowl. But given what happened last week, you have to drop them down on the list. And given the team that beat them, you have to put that team in front of them in the Bengals. The Bengals a few weeks ago had a very embarrassing loss to the Browns. But since that loss, they've been very, very impressive. They got Chase back. They have a defense that has some issues, some holes on it. But at every level, they have really talented players. There aren't like big superstar names, but they don't make mistakes. They're well coached, and they make some of the best adjustments in the league. So yeah, Joe Burrow at 4. At number 3, I think I went with the Cowboys. Yeah, I thought so. The Cowboys, there's not much to say about them. That defense is tremendous. They create turnovers. They get pressure. Dak Prescott is probably the most trustworthy quarterback we have in the NFC, which isn't saying much. Even though he had some ugly balls in that recent game, that drops him down just a little bit. But I love the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. And I got the Bills at number 2, maybe, I think. Josh Allen is unstoppable, but he makes a lot of really poor decisions. That defense is dealing with a lot of injuries, but they still have been on a pretty impressive run. The way that they treated the Patriots recently, I think, stood out to me. And you have to put them there because they are as talented as they are, and Stephon Diggs is quite possibly the best receiver in football. And number 1, it's easy. This is the only thing I feel good about on this list. Only thing that I'm confident about is the Eagles are by far the number 1 team in all of football.
Okay, and I don't think anyone can argue with the 5 teams that you put up there. We could quibble over the order. Let's bring the guys in, because let me ask you this. If you are doing your list based upon who are the 5 best teams this minute, this week, they just beat them, then I totally get it. But if I were to change it to, which ones do you have the most confidence in going through the playoffs? Would you change this list? Would you still have Eagles and Bills at the top? Because that would suggest that's your Super Bowl.
No, I would definitely change this list. I think I'd put the Chiefs in front of the Bills. I think I put the Bengals in front of the Bills. I guess I have to put the Bengals in front of the Chiefs also. But I still think I would put the Chiefs. Yeah, I think I go Eagles, Chiefs.
Because then the game that happened last weekend isn't the deciding factor.
Yeah, and I think I go Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Cowboys, Bengals.
So your order in the AFC is Chiefs, then Bengals, then Bills, or Chiefs, then Bills, then Bengals?
I'm a sucker for that Patrick Mahomes, man.
See, these are the questions. No, who can argue with all of that? What do you think, Darabont?
I'm going to go with Cincinnati. I mean, they are the reigning AFC champions, and they're actually playing better.
Yeah.
They're playing better on both sides of the ball.
Right now, they're playing the best of anybody in the AFC. What do you think?
I mean, at this time of year, it's tough to get my attention. Like the last 2 weeks, the Cincinnati Bengals, I watched them, listened to them. I'm like, there's something going on.
Okay, change the list.
Beckham Jr. visiting with the Cowboys yesterday. It was a day that would end at the Mavericks game last night, where he went with Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, and listened to how excited the crowd was to see OBJ. Not pictured was me leading the cheers. I was in the back. OBJ, let's go. Let's make this thing happen. Jerry Jones wants him. Is it going to happen today, Dan Graziano?
Why are you starting with me when you know I'm going to just throw cold water on the whole thing?
I don't know.
You should get one of these guys fired up and then come to look. I think it's possible. Jerry Jones wants him. He's been clear about it. He said it publicly. Players in the locker room have said it. They're with him at the basketball game. It all makes a lot of sense. What we don't know is how the medical evaluations are going, right? He was with the Giants last week, the Bills last week. The Cowboys medical people had him yesterday. These teams are asking themselves, is this a player that can help us this year? There are 5 weeks left in the regular season, and then you have the playoffs. If that answer is coming back no, then there's a chance that no one signs him. And we're talking about this as an offseason situation. I can't rule that out. The wild card, of course, is Jerry Jones, who might just sort of want him anyway, in which case he would be a Cowboy.
But from a team perspective, to frame that, you're only talking about a handful of plays, guys. Like in a playoff game, especially when you're talking about playing the Vikings or certainly the Eagles, if I'm the Cowboys, if I could get 1 or 2 explosive plays out of OBJ, it's all worth it. I would have signed him a month ago, rehab him in our building, have him go to practices. So whenever he's ready to go, and it could be later than sooner, Gross, I get that. But these games, as we all know, come down to 1 or 2 plays, and it's an arms race. And when you look at what Philly's done, they've added a handful of good players, Linville Joseph, Domonique Sue, Robert Quinn. If I'm Dallas, I don't let him leave the city.
Look, if you consider where the Cowboys are right this minute, you consider what our football power index, whatever it's worth is saying, gives them a 50% chance to make it to the Super Bowl, the likeliest Super Bowl champion of any team in the entire sport. Dan Orlovsky, sitting right there yesterday, said if they don't at least make the NFC Championship game, this would be a colossal failure for the Cowboys. Do you agree with that?
No, Monday Dan is a little bit over his skis on that.
You don't agree with that?
I think it would be a failure. Colossal is a big word.
It's a word like colossal.
Colossal failure is like they missed the playoffs altogether or something like that. It would be a huge disappointment.
If they lose to anyone but Philly.
No, I mean, yes, it would be a disappointment, be a failure, but the fact of the matter is it's a single elimination tournament with other NFL teams. Like, sometimes wild stuff happens. Yes, it'll be a disappointment. A disappointment is different than a failure. Like, you can lose a game and it not be a failure. So, yes, they are second best team in the NFC. So they should get to the championship. But that's not always how it works out, particularly now when there's only one bye.
Zeke, would that be like pooping on their whole season?
Yes. That's all the work that they've done.
It's a reference to something earlier that I'd hoped to move past.
Never.
Yet here we are.
Nate, let me actually defend our friend Mr. Monday Dan.
Okay.
I mean, the Cowboys are the team that just never gets it done. If not now, when? The entire conference has fallen by the wayside. The only other team anyone can take even remotely seriously, which is Minnesota, the Cowboys just beat 40-3 or something like that. If they lose to Philly in a tough game in the NFC Championship game, then you say, okay, it was a good year. Yeah. Anything else, you're going to walk away saying, man, we let that get away.
Yes, but it won't be the first time. I mean, we had the conversation last year after they lost. Did they just blow their best chance to win it? And yet here we are thinking they have an even better chance to win it.
That's the thing.
Cowboys have built out a roster that built for sustained success. Like, I don't think, yes, if they don't win the Super Bowl, they will look at it as a failure because that is their goal and they believe themselves to be good enough to do it. But that ball, as an old coach told me when I started covering football, is not round and it bounces funny. Like, you cannot rest your entire, your self-worth on the result of one playoff game.
But the flip side of that is that it never bounces their way. For a quarter century,
One of
it
these
has never
days.
bounced their way. And if not now, then when? You're right. Last year felt like their best chance. They had to lose Amari Cooper. All these things happened. Lo and behold, they're better than they were a year ago and in better position.
Which suggests something that we do not ascribe to the Cowboys often is like some institutional stability.
Yes.
It's the same thing that we talk about the Ravens. It's like being around a bunch is a value because sometimes the ball does bounce your way. And this season, I thought the Cowboys were going to be bad. I was wrong. So projecting that they're going to be bad next season also feels like a mistake. And yes, it would be a disappointment, but I guess we're quibbling over the adjective. Colossal seems a little too aggressive.
The other thing, like the OBJ signing would be a big splashy free agent signing, which is not a thing they really do. You can talk about Robert Quinn. How many sacks he got for the Eagles? 0. Like, it hasn't actually helped. Like the fact of the matter is, like, to do something just for the sake of doing it. They're going to get Tyron Smith back sometime in the next couple of weeks. That makes a lot more difference.
But football is a week-to-week existence. They just lost Anthony Brown, a really good corner for the year. And Robert Quinn may make a couple of plays for Philly at some point. All I'm saying is, if I'm Dallas, I want to acquire as many resources as possible so Greeny doesn't have to have that discussion about another Dallas collapse.
All right, we'll see. And the coaches and all the rest of them don't have to either. In the meantime, really busy little juncture here, so let's run the hurry up through a bunch of news. We all know what happened with Baker Mayfield yesterday.